Hi, boys and girls. I'm going to read this storybook. It's called Curious George Goes Camping. And George going camping. Let's start the story. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This weekend, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, had special plans. They were going camping. So their plans are going to camping. Let's see why they're going camping for. At the campsite, the man with the yellow hat unpacked their gear while George looked at all the tents. He saw tents for big families and one just the right size for a puppy. There were even tents on wheels. Would you like to help me put up our tent, George? The man asked. So everybody's camping. Everybody's camping. Camping is fun. George is looking around and he sees a lot of tents. Big tents and little tents, and even a little tent for a puppy. But I think he will help his friend with the yellow hat. And look, he's putting their tent. George was happy to help. It would not be hard to set up a tent, he thought. But it wasn't easy. George, why don't you fill our bucket with water at the pump? His friend suggested. We'll need it by our campfire later when we roast marshmallows. Marshmallows! George loved the marshmallows. He couldn't wait to try them roasted. Now, don't wander off and get into trouble, the man warned, but George did not hear him. He was already gone. So look, they're trying to get the tent ready. Now he sent George to go get water full of bucket. When he comes back, they're going to need some roasted marshmallows. It's hard to set up a tent, but you gotta learn. At the pump, George worked the handle up and down. Soon his bucket was full. On the way back the trail, he saw a family packing up. George watched a girl pour her bucket of water on a campfire. The fire sizzled out. George thought that looked like fun. He poured his bucket of water on the next campfire. Hey! Yelled a camper. We weren't finished with that yet. The camper began to chase George, but George didn't mean to cause trouble. Now he only wanted to hide. He ran into the forest as fast as he could, but the camper's footsteps followed close behind. George ran faster and faster. The footsteps came closer and closer until suddenly, I guess George saw a little girl pouring a bucket on the fire. Sorry, on the campfire. Now he's turned into another camper's fire while pouring water on their fire too. And now he's running off in the forest, and the campers are chasing him. Hi, George. They were passing George. Why, it was not the camper chasing George now. It was a deer. What fun to run with a deer! Forgetting all about the camper and the marshmallows, George ran after the deer, but a little monkey cannot run as fast as a deer in the woods. Before long, George was lost, and all alone. He felt tired and stopped to rest. At first, he was worried. He was very far from camp, but there were lots. So now he's chasing after the deer, but now he's lost in the forest, all by himself, and he's sad and lonely. Ay, Georgie. Right? George should not be doing that. Lots of other animals to keep him company. He saw a lizard sunning on a rock and a squirrel chattering in a tree. Then he saw the tail of a black and white kitty peeking out from under a bush. He was curious. Would the kitty like to play? George gently pulled the kitty out. Ay, Georgie. I don't think that's a kitty. And then the animals are hiding behind the bushes, but do you think that's a kitty, boys and girls? Look at that tail. I think that's a skunk. Let's see. And I was right. Psst. But it was not a kitty. It was a skunk. And it was scared. The skunk lifted its tail and sprayed. Mew! The spray smelled awful. George wanted to get away. The animals tried to get away. George wanted to get away too, but he could not. The smell was all over him. How would he ever get rid of this awful smell? He wondered. Too bad he could not take a bath in the woods. Ay, George. I was right. It was a skunk, and the skunk sprayed on him. Poor George. Now he's a stinky monkey now. And he cannot take a bath in the woods. Sometimes animals do, but we don't know. Then George had an idea. He could wash the smell off in the creek. George jumped into the cold water. He splashed and scrubbed, but he was still smelly. And he was wet, too. But what could he do? George thought and thought. If he climbed up a tree to dry off, would the smell blow away? I don't know. Let's see. No. Even dry and high up in the tree, George did not smell better. Poor George. Wished he hadn't wandered so far from camp. He wished he were roasting marshmallows with his friend. Suddenly, George heard footsteps heading toward him. Someone was coming. Look what happened to the tree, boys and girls. The tree died too. Hi, George. But now you hear footsteps. Who could it be? It was the forest animals, but they ran right by him. They had seen something scary, and even George saw it too. It was a fire. George had gotten into trouble for putting out one fire, but this fire wasn't in the campground. Uh-oh. Now there's a fire burning through the forest, and the animals are running away from the fire. They're scared of fire. You see the smoke? That's fire, boys and girls. This was an emergency! Quickly, George climbed down the tree and grabbed his bucket. He scooped it full of water in the creek. Then, being careful not to spill, he climbed back up and swung from branch to branch through the trees. Now George has a bucket full of water from the creek, and he's about to, I think save the forest. Let's see what will happen next. And now he's swinging through the trees. Branches. When George got close enough to the fire, he reached down and poured the water on the flames. Out went the fire with a big hiss. Just then George's friend rushed out of the forest with a ranger. "George!" he called. "I was afraid you would be here." "It's a good thing you were here, George," the ranger said. We saw smoke from fire out just in time." "Like, come on, but you were put this fire out in time." George was glad to help, and the man with the yellow hat was glad to see that George was safe. But he had a funny look on his face. "George," he asked, "what is that smell?" "Hi, Georgie. Look, he put out the firebush. That's a good thing." George helped and saved the forest. And here comes the yellow man with the yellow hat. The man in the yellow hat with a ranger to come and see what's going on. And George, well, I guess they got too close to George. He's a stinky monkey. Hi, Georgie. Back at the campsite, George's friend helped him get rid of the awful smell. But after a strange bath in tomato juice, George smelled fine. Then the man with the yellow hat invited the ranger to cook dinner with them over their own small campfire. "Fires can be nice, but if you're careful," said the ranger. So now he's cooking, with George and his friend. And George getting a bubble bath in tomato. Just to get rid of that skunk smell. Yeah. Hi, Georgie. "Especially for roasting," George agreed. "Especially for roasting marshmallows." And that is the end of our story. The end. Well, what can I say, everybody? I think George never went camping and met with his friend. But I think it was a good idea just to go and relax and enjoy nature, away from the city, away from problems, away from stress. So going and camping with in nature with family and friends is a good thing to do to relax our mind. But George didn't know what to do. Right, Carmen? Yes, you're right. And right, Rusty? Yes, you are right. Sometimes camping is fun. So, what did we learn about the story? Well, George and his friend had plans, so they went camping in the forest. Yeah, when they got there, George saw so many tents and a lot of people camping too, right? Yes, indeed. So, what was George doing with his friend in the yellow hat? What were they doing with the tent? They were trying to put it up, but it was not easy for George and his friend. So his friend told George to go to the creek or the river and fill the bucket with water. Yeah, just to be ready for, I don't know, probably to drink water or for an emergency. That's true. That's true. So, when George was getting the water from the river, what did he saw on the other campsite? He saw a little girl pouring with a bucket of water, and then she poured the water on the campfire. Yeah, because they were packing their tents and their camping gear, and they were ready to go. So you definitely cannot leave fire on when you leave the campsite. You gotta turn it off, right? So that's what the little girl did. She poured the water on the campfire so it could go off like this. Yeah, that's true. So, so what was George thinking? Well, when George was walking by, he saw campers and, well, he saw them putting their tents up, and then he saw a campfire. So what he thought that maybe it's fun to turn off the fire with water, so he did. But the campers were not happy. And George did. Well, he got himself in trouble. So the campers chased after George through the forest. Like this. And George was running, oh, faster, 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 faster. So what happened in the forest? George got lost. Yeah, he was lost in the forest. He even followed a deer that jumped from the bush. Sorry, over the bush. And then he ran after it, faster, faster, faster. Okay, I'm going. And then he was nowhere near the campsite. He was a lost monkey in the forest. Yeah, then he met animals in the forest. Yes, they were hiding. Then he saw, I think, something that, a tail that looks like a cat with black and white from the bush. He thought it was a kitty, but it was not a kitty at all. It was a skunk! Skunk, skunk, skunk! And the skunk was spraying like this. Psah! So what happened to George? He got sprayed by a skunk. And why? And how did he get sprayed by a skunk? Why pull his tail like this? And then he sprayed. Psah! I'm stinky, I'm stinky, I'm stinky! No, you're not. I'm a rooster, silly Carmen. Oh, sorry, my bad. So, the animals didn't get near George, right? No, because he was a stinky monkey. Yes. So how did George... No. Was George trying to get rid of the smell? Yes, he went inside the river, well, the creek. Yes, to wash himself off the nasty, disgusting smell. Did that work? Nope. Not at all. So what did he do next? He went up the tree, up, just to dry off and get rid of the smell. And did that work? Nope, not at all. It got worse. And then he saw smoke coming out of the forest, and the animals were running away from the fire. That did happen? Yes, it did. They were running away from the fire. So what did George do? He got a bucket full of water from the creek, and then he swung on the branches of trees, and then he poured the water on the fire. George saved the day. So who got there? It was his friend, the man in the yellow hat, and the campground ranger. They were gonna turn off the fire, but George poured the fire out. And that's a good thing, because then the forest will be roasted fiery. So, did the man and the yellow hat and the ranger notice George smelled very badly? Yes, they didn't get near George because George was a stinky monkey. Yes, that's true. So how did they get rid of that smell? George took a tomato bath. Yes, a tomato bath. And that's how he got rid of the smell. Who helped him? The man in the yellow hat. And then, what did they do at the campground? Well, they invited the campground ranger to come and cook and enjoy roasted marshmallows through the night with George and his friend. And that's the end of the story. So what advice would you give to the boys and girls? Always be careful in playing with fire, boys and girls. And plus, don't play with fire, because sometimes it could be dangerous. Yes, it could be very, very dangerous. You could burn everything. You can burn your home, you can burn your kitchen, you can burn your yard too. So don't play with fire, boys and girls. If you're with an adult, then you have to be very careful and be very safe, okay? Yes, you have to be very careful, boys and girls. Fire could be very dangerous. It can cause a forest fire. So don't play with fire on the campground, and don't play with fire at home too, okay? And always be careful, don't get lost. And when you're camping, you gotta stay together in a group with your family and friends, okay? Don't go out anywhere and don't try to get into trouble, okay, boys and girls? Yes. Alright, everybody, we gotta go. Good night, everyone. And dream beautiful, boys and girls. Good night. Mwah. So you better listen, boys and girls. You gotta be very careful because fire can be very dangerous, okay? And also, camping is fun because when you're camping, you can enjoy the campfire. You can enjoy like hiking, walking, or getting yourself wet in the river or the lake, but you always have to stay with an adult, okay, at all time, with a family member, okay, or friends. And also, the best part of camping, look up in the sky at night, and you'll see a bunch of stars. Believe me, then there should be no lights in the campground, and you could look up in the sky and you see a bunch of stars. It's so beautiful. And always take a telescope too, so you can see like galaxies or planets. And see, go outside and enjoy nature, boys and girls, okay? Nature is what relaxes our stress down. And camping is the best part. Okay, everybody? Good night, all. Good night, you kids. Love you all. Stay safe and stay out of trouble, okay? Bye-bye.